Hey, folks. I wanted to take just a few minutes in advance of our first Zoom meeting to talk a little bit about the topic, terminology, central themes, and desired goals for this readings class on arts practice research. Particularly, I want to define some terminology and articulate some ways in which arts practice research is, I think, a uniquely powerful set of perspectives and methodologies, both for thinking about performances, but also for making performances as well. The headline is, and the fact of the matter, is that every creative artist already engages in arts practice research. That is to say, every artist has expressive goals, skills, media, and vocabulary resources, and as well the focus, attention, and reflective thought that makes the expressive art result possible. Now, historically in the West, and especially in the world of music, the role of critical reporting upon arts practices has often been left to other professionalized persons: the professional music critic, the professional lyric critic, the professional art critic, and so on. Now, that's not to deride the expertise and the potential contribution of such professional critics, but it's rather to consciously recognize that the division of the maker's role and the reporter's role is actually an artificial division. That division between the professionalized maker and the professionalized reporter or analyst is a product of a particular kind of post Enlightenment thinking, and as I say, the professionalization of both art making and art reporting. On the other hand, as I said in our syllabus, quote, processes, techniques, skills, data sets, and critical perspectives combine to yield an art object or experience. So in other words, in arts practice research, which is otherwise sometimes described as practice-based research or practice-led research, we are seeking to reunite the role of the maker and the role of the reporter or interpreter. We're seeking to center the insight and articulate expertise of the art maker themselves in one set of intellectual processes. This field of arts practice research does grow out of the fields of criticism in various fine arts and humanities scholarship. We can assess the reality of arts practice not least as its own independent field of scholarly research by the growth of programs which confer advanced degrees in arts practice research across the USA, in the UK, and especially in Europe. Again, as I said in the syllabus, quote, these share a fundamental conviction that both the creation and the analysis of an arts object can be constituent elements of the mission, and they can thus unite the creator and the critical practitioner, end quote. So what I mean there is that arts practice research recognizes that makers already engage in critical and interpretative thinking, and that because they are the makers themselves, they might be uniquely positioned to provide unique insights into how and why an arts experience is constructed. Now, I don't want to overstate the artificial distinction between music makers and music critics or analysts, for example. Certainly, in the field of studio art, it's quite common for the artists themselves to write a program book for the gallery show. It's not entirely uncommon for a theater director or a dramaturge to create what Bertolt Brecht called a Modebuch, or a report upon a production saying, this is what we did and why we did it. And even in the world of Euro-American art music performance, occasionally the makers themselves will comment upon the reasons, the choices, and the intended results of their own art making. But in that latter field of Euro-American concert music, so-called art music, it's actually most common that a music critic, whether a journalist or a scholar, will supply the analysis and speak as the authoritative voice instead of the artist. Now, certainly that's the case most commonly with recitals or concerts of existing and well-known repertoire. Very seldom would the performer be the primary scholarly or critical interpreter. In the post-Enlightenment world, we've assumed that the performer's task and charge was to execute the art process, and it was the critic's and the scholar's job to interpret the intentions and the constructions behind that arts process. The one exception to this bifurcation in the world of Euro-American concert music is in the field of so-called new music composition. There, as you know, it'd be very common for a composer to write an extended program note describing how and why she or he made the compositional choices that were made. But even there, It's most common in such program notes by composers of new music to speak about theoretical and technical constructions in a way and with a terminology which may limit the breadth of audience who can receive the commentary, and which commentary does not very often tend to center the intended and received expressive experience. But that zone, precisely that zone, that centering of the intended and received expressive experience, which links the maker's intentions and the consumer's reception, that is precisely the zone in which arts practice research operates. And in an upcoming short commentary, I'll talk a bit more about the technical and organizational characteristics which help us both identify and engage effectively in truly critical and truly rigorous arts practice research. See you next time.